What's going on, everyone? It's Mike back again, and there was no debrief show yesterday. Paul was fine. It was all my fault, so apologies for that. Just really busy, and equally, what was to debrief? You know, in all honesty, that game against Palace was, it was definitely worse than Spurs, in my opinion. I know Spurs scored another goal, but Spurs have got that capability. So that would hurt. It was arguably the worst performance of the season. In a quarter-final of an FA Cup with the chance to go to Wembley. And even if you don't think it was the worst game of the season, we lost 4-0 to a mid-table team. No disrespect to Palace. Mid-table team, got some good players, but definitely also have some weaknesses. 4-0 at their place, without laying a glove on them. It was so disappointing that it makes everyone sit there and think why. You know what? Obviously, there's a lot of friends of the channel, and you know some of those guys were fortunate enough to get tickets. They were up at 4 o'clock in the morning to get coaches. Travelled all the way down to get there for, say, I don't know, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, half 11. Some of them didn't even get up there just before 12. And the players can do that. And then when you sit there and you think there was, say, 4,000, you're rounding it up, and say they paid 30 quid a ticket. That's 1,000... No, it's £120,000 in Everton tickets. I just think the players should reimburse it. And I know a lot of people will say, oh, you know, they don't do that, you know, all that shit. But it was appalling. And I just feel like there needs to be consequences for performances like that. I called out a lot of the players on Sunday, so I don't necessarily need to do that again, and I don't see the point. But I don't understand. Like, I wish I could understand what's going on at Everton, but I can't. And when you look at the mess that Everton are in, both on and off the pitch, you've got to be really concerned about next season, irrespective of what league we're in. So, I wanted to do this video, and I wanted to be a bit open and honest, a bit raw. But I also wanted to put a different spin on it as well, and get your take. So first and foremost, let's look at this as if we stay up this season. If we stay up this season, we go into this season next season not really knowing what we can spend. I don't think any Everton fan here knows what we can spend. There's been more pressure applied to us about financial fair play. Alicia Rusmanoff is no longer in the picture. So there's a hole. We've got a new stadium that is being funded from somewhere, but as of where, I don't know. If it's Moshiri's pocket, fair enough. You bought the club, you pay for it. But if it is one of these further investors or an American business of some type, fine. But we've got to stay in the league with the same group of players. And even if players do leave, say Calvert-Lewin leaves. This time last season, Calvert-Lewin was probably worth 60 million. Something like that. What's he worth now? Half that? 30? Is that a push? Would you get 40 million for Calvert-Lewin? I don't know. So, it's not bringing in a lot of money. So, you've got that worry. We could be in as much trouble next season as we are this season. And that's without talking about board, managers, tactics, backroom staff. Because I don't get it. So let's talk about the worrying thing. Everton get relegated. What happens to this £500 million stadium? Do you know any championship sides that spend £500 million on a stadium? I don't. And the worrying thing to add to that is, if we stay in the Championship for a few years, how are we going to ever generate the revenue to fund it without selling everyone? Absolutely everyone. There will literally be the biggest fire sale since Amazon Prime discount Prime Day. It'd be like House of Fraser sale on the last day, on the first day of it going under. It'll be ridiculous. So, no matter how you look, we're in trouble. We are absolutely in trouble. And I think I sort of want to set the expectations for this video, because this video is about opinions. It's not necessarily about me digging out people or me saying things about other people or anything. It's about what I think. And if I look at Everton Football Club right now, from top to management, to the group of players, to us as fans, there's only one group out of them that are doing their job, and that is fans. That is match-going fans. That is the fantastic away fans. That is everyone who puts on a blue shirt, sits in that stand at Goodison Park and away grounds and sings their heart out for 90 minutes. And if they can't sing for 90 minutes, they sing as much as they physically can. We do our bit. So then I look upwards to the chain, and we know that this playing squad is not good enough. Something like £500 million has been invested, and yes, there's been players that have left, and we've generated a little bit of money from it. But this group of players is not athletic. They're not particularly physical. They're not really quick. There's no creativity in the middle of the park. There's a little bit on the wings with Gordon and Damari Gray, I give them credit. There's very little in the middle. Richarlison, I love Richarlison, but he's not a number 9, because scoring 4 or 5 goals in 23 or 24 appearances is not enough. Calvert-Lewin's been injured, and he probably is a number 9, but he's only really a good number 9 if you give him the ball in the box, and he's not one-on-one. So there's huge gaps in this squad where we've spent all of this money and we've still got these gaps, while we've got players potentially saying, I'm going to leave. You know, these quotes that have come out from certain players. I sort of sit there and I think, you know, the old me would say, yeah, all right, leave, go. But who's going to want them? Who's going to want these players? So you've got that to contend with, you know, and as fans, we have to sit there and, you know, we'll hear statements from all of these players, and Anthony Gordon does it, and I've got all the time in the world for Gordon, I really do, but I don't even want to hear it from him. You know, when he's saying we're not good enough, we've upset the fans, we haven't done enough, we need to show fight. If you're saying it, I'm someone that prefers actions over words, and I don't know about you guys, but I absolutely prefer someone to go and do it, then tell me they're going to do it, and then not achieve. You know, there's a thing about, you know, accepting where you are, and where are people? Like, where is this football team? How good is the 11 players that Everton put on that pitch? And maybe as a result of the money, of the names, maybe we're just nowhere near the team that we think we are. And I think that's abundantly obvious by the fact we're sitting 17th. Albeit, yeah, we've got some games in hand. But literally, I would say none of us have got any faith that we're going to get another point away from home. So we're relying on home games. I just don't get that. So that's the players. Then you go up a level and you go to the management. Now, Frank Lampard brought in a team that I was really excited that he brought in. Clement, Edwards. He kept the sprinkling of Ferguson and Alan Kelly, and I was fine with that. And I like Lampard. I like his mentality. I like how hungry he is. But in big games, he's made big mistakes. Now, it's easy for us to sit there and say that. It's easy for me. It's easy for any content creator. It's easy for you to say to your mates in the pub that he's made big mistakes. And that's partly because the results they haven't worked. But they've actually been glaring obvious. You know, for example, playing 2 in midfield when we really shouldn't. Playing 5 at the back when we shouldn't. The high press that we do for these 20 minutes, he absolutely sets his team up to do that, which is absolutely fine. But after 25 minutes, we're usually 1-0 down and dead in the water. Now, he might come out like he did and say, I set the team up, they were great. But you also set the team up so they were blowing out their arse after 25 minutes and begging to get to half-time. There has to be a middle level. There has to be something. So, Lampard, whether he likes it or not, is absolutely not without criticism. And where he can say to people, oh, yeah, they haven't got magic wands. You know, I can't get inside these players' heads. That's your job. Now, look, I heard some comments that Chris Sutton made the other day about Lampard, and I didn't agree with him. I thought he was an absolute bellend. And he is a bellend. But that point he had right. You know, as a manager, you have to try and get into your employees' heads. You have to understand what makes them tick. Is it a positive? Is it a negative? What sort of reinforcement? Is it an arm round the shoulder? Is it they've had loads of arms around the shoulders and now you need to be a little bit firmer? You could do literally all of that behind closed doors. But what he did was he made us a circus by coming out and saying it in front of the entire world. And a lot of us agree with what he said. I'm not sitting here disagreeing with what he said. Absolutely not. I think he was absolutely right to call out the mentality of the players. And we have done for 6 years. This isn't new. But to some players who have got a performance in them occasionally, I don't think they would have respected that. And I do think it could have a negative impact. But then, how much more negative can it be? We're 17th in the league. We've been knocked out 4-0 by Palace in the FA Cup. How much more can it be? So, I don't know. I'm on the fence about that. And then when I look at the bigger picture, the board, I'll always be grateful to any board member that managed to get a new ground off the ground. Because I love Goodison. I love going to Goodison. The memories I've got of Goodison are amazing. I'm fortunate enough that my granddad took me. My dad now drives us. Now I drive Finley and Finley will go and Finley loves the place. But we need a new stadium to kick on. But where are we kicking on to? You know, we said that we wanted a 52,000 seat stadium, and I remember at the time I very heavily criticised it. I said it should be 60, should be a minimum of 60. There's like 10,000 people waiting on the waiting list. There's loads of corporate. There's loads of match ticket going fans who can't get tickets. It should be 60. Now I'm starting to understand why it was 52. Because there appears to be a lack of ambition. And it's not for the want of trying. Money's been spent. But it's been spent on the wrong players over such a prolonged period of time that the team is now rotten. With players that wouldn't get into other football teams, that don't have any transfer value. And we've gone from almost a complete opposite from David Moyes' days, where he would sign a Baines or a Lescott or a Jagielka or a Cahill or an Arteta, a Pienaar. All of these players were signed for relatively nominal fees, and all of them, if not most of them, either did leave for more money than we paid them for, a lot longer after, or were definitely valued at much higher in their peak. You definitely can't say that about Everton. Donny van der Beek has come to Everton, and in the first 2 games he looked sensational. Ever since, he looks average. Doucouré looks horrendous right now. You wouldn't pay £30 million for Doucouré, or 20, or whatever we paid for him. You wouldn't pay that. People were genuinely having a debate about Allen and Doucouré. So, when you look at the board's decisions on the players they've brought in, they're ludicrous. Klassen, Iwobi, Balassi, Cenk Tosun, Walcott, Schneiderlin. The list is literally endless. Like, we could keep going. Lookman, Vlasic. This Everton team is so far removed from the fans and from its roots that it's not even Everton anymore. And you've got people within that board who are Mr. Blue, Mr. Everton, and other members on that board who are blue, that appear to just let it be like this. And under their stewardship, we've achieved fuck all. Whereas in the mid-80s, early 70s, mid-60s, before the war, Everton have been a successful team. So, for us to sit here and to be in this position we are right now is an utter disgrace on those people that run our football club. And everything below that, in my opinion, is as a result of their actions. I don't agree with the decisions they've made. I don't agree with the managerial appointments they've made. Not all of them anyway. I certainly don't agree with the recruitment. And as a fan, we still go week in, week out, pay money to watch it. And it's mad. It's mad how messed up that football team make you. So what this video was about was really about just explaining that. All the pillars of this club and how we as fans are the best thing about it. We as fans, people like me, when I was 13, 14 years old, I looked up to these players. I'll never forget standing in the changing room away at West Brom. Everton had just been knocked out of the Champions League by Villarreal. And I remember looking at Marcus Bent, and he had a massive tattoo on his back. James Beattie. These weren't fantastic players. I remember having my picture taken with Andy van der Meijden. You know, I remember Captain David Weir holding my hand as we walked out. I remember the manager, Dermot Gallagher, or whatever his name was, the bald one. I remember him refusing to shake my hand in the tunnel. I think it was Darren Pearce, who was the West Brom manager at the time. I remember Nigel Martin in goal. You guys have got memories that go even further than that. But every single player that was in that dressing room that day, bar the exception, Andy van der Meijden, would have left everything on that football pitch. And if they couldn't, they would have said. I see every single week a group of shithouses walk onto Goodison Park, walk onto Sellers Park, walk onto the Olympic Stadium in 2 weeks' time, and put in performances and walk on that football pitch when they've got 40, 50, 60,000 people watching them live. They've got millions of people watching them on TV, and they have got the audacity to appear, at the very least, like they do not care. And as a club, as an institution, as a grandfather of English football, that is where we are. And that is an absolute disgrace. So I can sit here and I can call out these players and I can call out the board and I could call out Lampard, but where did it all go wrong? And for me, as grateful as I am for that stadium, it went wrong when Ken Wright was appointed as chairman years ago. And it got even worse when Farhad Moshiri took over as owner of this club, because a majority shareholder, because his senseless acts have put Everton in this position. And everything below it is just a pyramid of shit, a domino effect that has crushed our football club. And the only thing that will keep this football club in this league is us. We are the only thing that will keep us up. I think we pick up another 12 points. And based on the amount of points we've got now, I think that's enough to keep us up. But I do have real worries about next season. And when people say, oh, you know, you shouldn't look too far ahead, next season will be different, etc. I actually don't think we should look like that. I actually think we should look at next season, and we should look about the future, because we have to know and guess where this football club is going. And at the minute, it's going down the toilet at a rate of knots. It's being swirled so hard that your hair's come off. The wig's down the bog. It's fucked. It's gone. And this is what brings me on to the future and my wishes. Chelsea. Absolute big club. Champions League winners. World Cup winners. Former Premier League winners. Obvious FA Cup and Carabao Cup winners numerous times. Bar the Champions League, still not as you know, English titles as many as Everton, but that's whatever. £3 billion they're going to go for. 3 billion. And there's 20 people that are interested in buying Everton. And it took Bill Kenwright years to find a buyer. Just doesn't make sense. If Premier League clubs are assets, get us on the market. Sell us. Because, honestly, I would have no issue with Farhad Moshiri coming out tomorrow to his best friend Jim White, the Everton press, the Red Echo. I almost don't care who he come out and spoke to. But I would absolutely love it if he sold the club. Because I and him are done. I'll back the fans. I'll back the players. We need to stay up. But the owner is an absolute car crash. And I don't trust him as far as I could throw him. And that is that. Guys, I'm leaving it there. I don't even know what this video was. But that was my thoughts on the club. We need to change big style. And I think that only comes over new ownership of people that actually know how to run a club. So we'll see. Guys, keep smiling up, toughies. Peace.